Grab a drink of choice and let's get stuck into it. Today in the hot seat, I have the talented Kenna, COO of Seedlab Australia. Hold on, she's no longer CEO. I started with that when I started these questions, but now she's actually the new managing director. So Kenna, to start with, how do you describe your role at Seedlab Australia for people who may not have come across you at all before?
Thanks, Stefan, for having me on. This is really, really exciting. So I'm managing director of Seedlab Australia, and for those of you that don't know, Seedlab is a unique business program helping Australian and New Zealand FMCG businesses get retail ready for national retail supply. We're fully supported by Woolworths, which makes it a really unique offering. It means that our support is free to participants. It means it's very competitive to access. There are a number of rounds we go through each year, taking in new businesses, and it means we can only take a certain number at a time. But as we've moved through the years, we've built up a really rich alumni of over 450 businesses and 600 founders in that space who are all coming to us, learning what it takes to get their business ready for the big shelves. It's really exciting. We touch all elements of your business. So it's not just about branding. It's not just about your commercials. We'll go through your processing and manufacturing line. We'll look into your packaging. We'll dive into your teams and how you've set up that behind the scenes to get a real understanding of what scaling and growth could actually look like for you and the specific needs that your business has in that growth. So it's a really, really cool program, and I'm very excited to be leading it now, heading into the new financial year.
I actually never knew that you guys had like 450, different businesses through, as you said, 600 founders. That's crazy numbers. And then, you're going through that whole process, which is probably unique in itself because not many places that actually do any of this sort of work with new businesses look at their whole process through it. So that's pretty cool. So I just want to do a little bit on yourself first, and then we'll kick back into this whole Seedlab. So you yourself have got a background that seems to blend research, communication, retail interest, and storytelling, which is quite a mix. It's quite unique. How has that shaped the way that you approach Seedlab? And more so, how will this approach the way you do it going forward?
I love questions like this. I also sometimes enjoy talking about myself. Everyone enjoys talking about themselves. It's always fun. But yeah, I think my background is pretty unique. It's not FMCG, particularly as an industry. It's not something that you can really get a degree in, get a space in. A lot of it is involved in industry, just being thrown into things and seeing what you enjoy doing. And that background, particularly in research and communication, I found really interesting. So quite a few years ago, I was working as a tutor and researcher at the University of Melbourne, particularly in their book publishing program. So my background in academia, in research, is looking at how people market books, whether that's people, whether it's algorithms, looking at how different systems organize books to be sold and what that kind of life cycle looks like. I've always been deeply interested in why people buy what we buy. Like, why do we buy things? Why do we put a particular emotion into a purchase? Are we following a story by who's created it? Is it something that makes us feel good? Do we want to have a physical or emotional response to something? Do we like just collecting things? And so having that background for me and growing up within this FMCG industry, particularly with my family, I've always linked books and supermarkets, whether it's in my own research, the idea of browsing and kind of looking through shelves. Why do we put things here? Why does this move? How do you get that published? How do you get that into that store? It translates really well into the industry I'm in now. But I think particularly my interest in lifestyle retail and storytelling really helps me to understand the proposition that a lot of the businesses we work with come to us with. So often we see people coming in with premium propositions. So things are really expensive and they're like, how do I make someone buy this really expensive thing that I've put my heart and soul into? And I think my background there in storytelling is like, well, here are 4 different ways you could sell a $90 white t-shirt to someone. You've just got to pick the way that works for you. And I think it's a very transferable set of skills, whether you're talking about t-shirts, jars of peanut butter, laundry detergent. There are lots of different ways you can bring that storytelling into the space, whether it's through your brand, through packaging, through the values you have in your own business as well. And I think that will set me up really well as we move forward. I really want to focus more on bringing brand into the heart of everything a little bit more, but mainly because that's the thing I love. But bringing the community stories and founder stories into everything beyond just trying to sell their product. I think it's really hard to scale a founder story when you are working at a kind of national retail scale. It's the product is really driving a lot of that. So how do we capture the magic from early stages and make sure that's translated across into large scale growth? And so that's where I see myself really fitting in over the next few years with Seedlab, and I'm really excited for that.
Joining that from the brand story and the founder being able to sort of put that information through, especially when they do go national, because it's not like the founder can stand at every single sales point and tell their story. And, you've got that 3-second grab to buy the product that they say that someone has, so how is that going to be able to, make someone choose your product over their product? And you're right, that storytelling, I think, is becoming more and more of a need that people need to sort of invest in regards to themselves. They need to look at it, what they're actually doing with it and ensure that it is right. I've even hearing now of like large businesses, as in global conglomerates, that are now employing storytellers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's wild. It's really cool though. Like, yes, they're large and there's clearly an opportunity that they are trying to seize there. But I think that's interesting. I think it's also speaks to the way this industry as a whole is moving. Like, we know it's oversaturated. We know that everyone is vying for attention in different ways from different people, from different consumers. And if you can find a way to unlock a new buying mission or a new need or a new problem that maybe hasn't quite surfaced yet, I think that there are always opportunities in that kind of thing. And a lot of it comes down to storytelling. How do you communicate that need? How do you communicate that you have the right thing to solve this person's problem? And there's so many different ways to do it. I love it.
Oh yeah, that is a tough one. And I think if you can nail that, as you say, you get that right, people start buying your product. Oof. Tough.
It's
tough. Yeah.
But yeah, I love it.
What first attracted you to Seedlab specifically, coming and working back in it? And then what do you enjoy most about helping emerging brands to get retail ready? I guess we sort of cover that a bit, but come on, we'll just get a bit deeper on why you love it so much.
It's a really interesting story. I think Seedlab was co-founded by my mum. So some people would be like, oh, classic Nepo baby vibes just in here. But I think what they don't see behind the scenes is I stepped into the Seedlab world after, I guess, avoiding it for quite some time, having that family connection, because I had spent quite a bit of the stint in universities and spent quite a bit of time recovering from the burnout of working in universities. And to do that, I started working just in customer service at a bougie stationery brand, Milligram. Shout out to Milligram. We love Milligram. And when I was there, it really reinvigorated, I think, my love of retail spaces, particularly, it's a weird thing to nerd out about, but like omni-channel retail. So we've got this online, offline storytelling. You've got a whole range of different products, and you're trying to sell really expensive pens to people that don't need more pens. But there's something in that I really enjoyed. And when my time there was coming to an end, I was like, I need a new challenge. I need to, I'm really recovering from this burnout quite well. And I was like, I'm ready to be challenged again. I really need to step up once more. I floated the idea with my mum, Dr. Hazel MacTavish West. And I just said, look, I'm applying for jobs in government. I'm applying for these comms jobs. I'm applying for like everything around my expertise. And she said, I need someone to come and do comms at Seedlab. We just need someone to come and do comms and do different bits there. Like, do you want to? And I surprised her by saying yes. It was a very funny little moment. I was like, yeah, that sounds great, actually. And I stepped into the team, and there was quite a bit of negotiation around, do I want to be visible in the team? Do I want to work behind the scenes? Like, what do I want to do? And I said, I think I want to be in the team. I think I want to show face, be involved. I want to see what this is all about. And this really comes to the second part of your question, which is what do I enjoy most? And it is the people that I meet. For years, when I only heard about Seedlab in the background, whether it was at dinner conversations, work travel for my parents going off and doing different things, I never quite understood why it was so big and special to them. I'm like, it's work. I know I can see you building it, but I didn't quite get it. And the first couple of months being in Seedlab, sitting in on some of our live sessions and attending an expo up at Woolworths Norwest, so at their headquarters, and seeing everything come to life, I remember sitting down at the first team meeting that had us all there, and I just said, I just want to say to everyone, I get it. I understand why everyone moves mountains behind the scenes to make sure that these people get what they need whenever they need it, because you meet so many passionate entrepreneurs who are literally putting their entire lives into these businesses. They're remortgaging houses. They are trying to find ways of not moving their family everywhere to try and fund different things. They're trying to start this business while also working full-time in their 9-to-5, whilst also having kids and doing all of this different thing. Like it's such an amazing thing that these founders are doing, and being able to be part of their journey, often from the really beginning stages, is just amazing. Like seeing their face, like they might it happens quite a lot, and it's happening at the moment because we've got this new bootcamp round running at the moment, and you say something and it might be, I don't know, it might be a margin expectation, or it might be an idea for a brand activation or something like that, and you can just look around the room and everyone's eyes are like, oh, and you can just see all of these different lights going off in their brain, good or bad. Sometimes they get really scared, and that's okay. Watching learning happen in real time and being part of that is absolutely the best part about helping emerging brands. Like, it is an ever evolving learning process, and even businesses that we have been working with for 5 or 6 years, or even businesses that have been operating within major retail for 20, 30 years are still learning new things because everything evolves. And I love the faces. I love seeing people's faces when they figure out something and something clicks. It never gets old.
I'm a bit like you. I like working with brands and just working with people. It's like, for me, it's about the people, but I've never thought about the faces of the people when these things are going on. But I guess doing different things and telling someone that this is the best packaging for them is not going to spin their wheels.
Yes. Yeah.
Stuff.
You never know. Sometimes it might just be the exact unlock they need, and you'll change their life forever.
Probably have worked with some places and you've noticed something that's wrong on their packaging that could do better. And you go, hey, have you thought about this? And they're like, no. And then, you pull a sample out of your bag and you go, hey, what about if you put it into this, it'll sit better on the shelf? Or have you considered this, from other stuff you've learned? So yeah, I guess maybe there are little bits there that work with it. And, you're right at the heart of it, as you say, as people sort of get stuck into it. So you do see them grow. And, when you said they're working with people over that longer period too, you might see someone that literally is selling in a market. And this is, I'm assuming this, and then all of a sudden they're ranged in 700 stores. And you're like, yeah, baby, that was all part of what we did.
Exactly. That's the best kind of good news story. And it's a certain, how we're positioned in Seedlab is that we are just fully invested in these businesses, just in terms of knowledge, in terms of sharing information. Like, and so when something like this happens, we've played a part, but we make sure that the businesses have been fishing for themselves. Like they have done it. They have gotten themselves there by making good decisions, having really good communication skills, making sure that they are actually ready for it and capable. And it's all on them. Like it's exciting for us, but if anything, seeing the growth, seeing personal growth and business growth is just phenomenal.
You know, you guys are just sort of helping lead them in that right direction. They already know where they're sort of going, and you're just stopping some of those wobbles as they're going along, I guess, you know, and helping to smooth out the road. So, you know, we look at, you know, from a Seedlab point of view, we've talked a bit about it, but then, you know, what does it actually do? You know, what does retail ready actually mean in practice for a brand trying to get into the stores, into Woolworths? Can you explain why it's sort of a bit more about how it actually unfolds, I guess, and how it sort of works?
In terms of the retail readiness, there are a lot of different things at play, but I think at the core, it's a confidence in your business, in your product range, and yourself to enter a complex retail environment like Woolworths or any major retailer and be ready to problem solve and work with them as a trade partner to meet their needs, but also fulfill your own. So with that all in mind, like we start at the bottom and kind of like, okay, how can we build up confidence in all of those areas? It's your business, your product range, and yourself, because a lot of it is personal growth as well as professional growth. When businesses first come into Seedlab, so at the first stage, it's the bootcamp phase, which is our 6-week intensive program. We're running one at the moment. We're heading into week 3, and it's exciting because they come in. The team sort of select a few. We get a lot of applications in. And this is something that maybe is a little curtain reveal, but we are over indexed like 5 to 1. So for every business applying, like every 5, only 1 gets a spot because of numbers, because of time, because of the capability that we have to lead however many businesses through. And so when they come into bootcamp, it's a set 6-week live program. There's a lot of prep that they do in between each session. And we focus on your business. So that's thinking about like business structure, for example, making sure that all of your legal bits are up to scratch. But then moving into your product and who buys it. So thinking about that, your unique value proposition, thinking about your target audience. Is the problem that you're trying to solve actually there? Is it viable? Has it got a market fit? We talk about your product in terms of cost of goods and margin expectations, and making sure that, is there a way to make this profitable? Is it profitable already? Where can you make it more profitable? It's a never ending conversation. It's just cogs. And it starts in bootcamp. But we'll move into bits around brand and the storytelling component. So making sure that the proposition that you have, your brand positioning, is as simple and as effective as possible for you. And we'll talk quite a lot around towards the end about pitching your product and making sure that all of these things are coming together in a way that allows you to properly pitch and feel confident in what you're putting forward as well. So once a business has gone through bootcamp, they got the opportunity to pitch to Cultivate, which is a 6-month program. And that's where we kind of say the magic happens. And Cultivate is where we take a smaller group on application through, and they get one-on-one support from the team based on what they need throughout that 6 months. And there's live discussions every month as well. So you kind of come in with a cohort that sometimes you might already know the people from bootcamp before. Sometimes there's new people that from cohorts before. And Cultivate is a space where you can truly get into that scaling nitty gritty. With Cultivate, it's all very exciting because we get to know your businesses so well. And there are additional opportunities, I think, within Cultivate to get in front of Woolworths in different ways.
So with the bootcamp, how many people go into that?
It kind of varies, but basically it's around 45. Around 45. Anything, it sits about there, and it depends again on the market environment, different things. So we can only work with the applications that come in, and sometimes it's like, okay, yes, 45, let's go. And then sometimes it's like, you know what, no, 37 is good. Like there are 37 here, and it's tricky. It's around that mark because and it's that way because when it does go through the other stages of the program, so down into Cultivate, where it's more demanding on time. We've got a small, lean team. Like we know what works at this point, and we know that running the sessions in bootcamp, a cohort of about 40 businesses is so exciting for these businesses coming in, because it's like you might have a popcorn business and you're so excited about popcorn, and then in the room there's also a business making like goat's milk body cleanser in this new way, and you're like, wow, I would never have spoken to you. I would have never have spoken to you in other forums necessarily, unless we kind of lived quite close together. But here you're in a room with people who have the same challenges as you. You're often at similar stages, or you're thinking about similar things, and everyone learns from each other in that space. And it's really, really exciting to see who connects with who. It feels very schooly in a little way. Like I get quite excited when bootcamp begins because it goes back into my uni days where I'm like, oh, who's going to make friends? Who's going to sit next to each other? Who's going to be like competing for share of sharing time? I don't know. It's very fun to see. So yeah, it's generally that amount, but it can change. But over the last 6 years, it hasn't changed that much. It normally sits around there.
Yeah, it must be really good for them, as you said, those teams joining together, that 45 or whatever number it ends up being. That's a lot of businesses that can actually then, you can actually just sponge off in regards to ideas, or you can also lean on a wee bit and just sort of feel, it creates that network, I guess, amongst them that can then just throw ideas off each other later on down the track. And I could imagine that some of them just form some fantastic relationships as well.
Yeah, they really do. And I think one of the really interesting things that I see come up, because we are focused on businesses at all stages of growth. So I think when Seedlab first began, there was a focus on startups and really emerging businesses. But as we've moved through, and as the industry has evolved as well to have a little bit more information out there, we find that the businesses coming through are further ahead than they have been in the past across the board. But that means that we still have businesses in the room in bootcamp where they are in that startup phase. They're setting things up. They're making sure that their website is working and ready. But then you've also got businesses that already have maybe 400 stockists, and their next goal is, I want to be in a national retailer. So they are very much poised for that scale up and growth, but they still don't know what they don't know about doing that. So everyone is in the same room and learning in the same program, no matter what level you're at. And I think we kind of say, like, if you're here, we'll help you get here. And if you're here, we'll help you get here. And if you're here, we'll help you get here. And everyone can learn from that in a really enriching, community-oriented way as well. So it's nice. We often say, like, everyone in the room could be a honey producer. Like everyone. We could do a whole room of like 20 honey producers all in the same room. And every single one of them would get different things out, because all of their propositions will be very different. They're in different places using different things. They'll have different brand values and stories, different things to say. And all of them would be uniquely positioned to then go into market. So even if a business is kind of similar to you in the room, you kind of come out the other end being like, wow, I really know who I am and how I can move forward with this.
Popcorn was the first thing you said. And I thought, okay, what if there's like 6 popcorn producers, like gourmet popcorn producers from across Australia and New Zealand that are all joining in there? It's like, how do you differentiate? But you've actually hit that there on the head and just covered it. So that's actually quite good. And, learning about yourself and, your journey and how to make it work is, again, that storytelling. So, that next program, so the Cultivate, the 6-month intensive program, how many people get onto that? As you said, it's a smaller group. So I'm just sort of like quite interested in that now, because that's like would be amazing for anyone to get onto.
It's such a fun opportunity. And this is where it is very much merit based. So the people applying for Cultivate have to have gone through bootcamp, not immediately, but like a bootcamp program that we've run. Sometimes the best Cultivate pitches we see are from people who did bootcamp maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, went away, worked on all the things that came out of bootcamp, and have come back and said, I'm ready. Here I am, let's go. Because it's merit-based, there has to be quite a compelling reason to maybe not take them on. And the number one reason we see for not taking on a business in Cultivate is they don't need it. And so they'll apply, and we know that they're already propelling themselves forward and they're doing really well. And we can see that, and you can see that as it comes through bootcamp. You can see it in their pitch. And sometimes they say, oh, but I really want to do that. And I was like, yeah, we understand, but we have this other group of 15 businesses that really do need this support here. And because it is a free program to participate in, we do have to take every application one by one and really look at it on its merits and what we can do to help get these businesses ready. And so it's normally about mid-teens, sometimes 13, sometimes 15. We've had one with 18. It generally sits around there.
Cool size group, actually, because you can actually really get stuck into it. And I get what you mean when you see there they come back after 18 months. I guess it's given them the chance to sort of take on everything from the boot camp, but also then develop, have some failures with it, and just go, okay, we did this, didn't work, let's try this. It gives that sort of a bit more experience into it. What is the most common gaps you see? Is it usually a product, packaging, commercial readiness, supply chain, or a combination of the lot when these guys come to you? This is now going back to your boot camp point.
It is a mixture. It is a mixture of all the things. But the thing that really helps them get in the door in the first place, so you've applied for boot camp, you're hoping to get in. I'm on the other end, going through all the applications, thinking, oh, who should I put in? The thing that always stands out are people who are really, really clear on what their unique value proposition is, like what makes them unique. Because we're not interested. I can be really blunt about it. Like, we're not interested in Me Too products. We're not interested in you doing the same thing that's something that's already in market. We are interested in you doing something similar, but you have put a very unique spin on it because of, I don't know, where you're from, a process that you've been put in place, an ingredient that you're using. It could even be a format change that you do that is solving another problem for the consumer, where the format is really, really neat and exciting. If you're really clear on what makes you unique and that problem to be solved is clear from the get-go, green card straight in. When those businesses are selected, they're going through boot camp. Because they're all at different stages, we find that it really is a mixture across the board of what needs work. For some people, they'll come in and they can be quite sound in their maybe commercial understanding. They might be really good with numbers and have a really clear understanding of their cost of goods, their margins, what that looks like, because whether it's because of their background or because they've had someone look at them, or because they've just got a really good costing structure for the product and it works well. But they might not have a creative bone in their body, and their packaging and the branding is just not going to cut it in a national retail space. So we know that that's the thing that we're going to work on. That's the thing that they're going to be honing in on and listening to. For others, they might have a really awesome product. It's really unique. All the branding is spiffy and exciting and accessible, and the product's just too expensive. And it's too expensive because they're still making it themselves in a way that is just not cost effective. And so we know then that one of the priorities, at least for a business like that, is helping them set up. Are you thinking about lean in your current manufacturing facility? If you're doing it in, whether it's a home kitchen garage, or are you looking to upscale to a commercial kitchen? If you're already in a commercial kitchen and it's still expensive, how can we reduce some of the raw ingredient costs? How can we adjust the packaging? And we can talk about that a little bit later. But like, there's all these different levers that people come in to us with that we can kind of pull and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Where are your strengths? And I think when businesses first apply, they're filling out the application and just making sure that they're ticking the boxes, putting in the information. And we're looking at most of that, but we're really interested in what that range is and how you're presenting it to us. And looking at it and thinking, well, is there an opportunity here? Like, and that's what it comes down to, like the current market, thinking about trends, thinking about trend forecasting into about 18 months, 2 years time, when this business would likely be on the shelf and ready. Is that an opportunity that is open? Is that where it's going? And to your point about businesses coming in to Cultivate maybe 18 months, 2 years after they've completed bootcamp, often that's because when they first came to us, the idea is too new, the product's too new. It doesn't necessarily have the consumer education around it. And that's a hurdle that we see a lot, and it's an uphill battle. And they might come to us 18 months later and they're like, you know what? Now's the right time. Now's the right time for this. And we see that too. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. So it's exciting. It's a lot of patterns and trends in my head. We're all kind of milling around together and being like, is this going to work? If it's going to work, is this founder teachable and open to ways of doing business to make this work?
What these guys are going to be thinking about, and a lot of the time they won't be thinking about all of those different things. They've got, yes, they might have their cogs down packed, but they're not thinking about specific ingredients or something. And there could be advantages there that they can take. They might be buying the ingredients off, someone down the road, or buying them from the supermarket, because that's just, they only need 6 grams or something every time. So they go, we'll just go and buy 50 grams at the supermarket versus buying a kilo from, the trader down the road that can save them half the cost or something, because again, packaging and everything like that goes into retail. Those unique selling points that, you see they're key, which is kind of interesting, because I was going to ask you is what's the first things and trends that you seem to look at, but I think we covered that anyway, because you talked about the USPs, you talked about the opportunities. I think that's a tough one, the opportunities, because you're sort of going, hey, where are the opportunities going to be? Being around for a while, you do see things that have fallen over, and then they come back with a vengeance when someone else has done it, and it's just literally, unfortunately, someone was just too early for the retailers to accept it. And you sort of got to pick your moment, pick your battles, I guess, on that. So that's pretty tough for someone, to be able to go, oh man, our product's not quite there, and then you just hate if someone else come along and jumped over you and went for it. What do brands often underestimate when they're trying to get into major retail?
Depending on who you ask, I think people have a different answer. I think about this a lot, because whether it's me saying it a lot and trying to get it through, like if I say this 6 times, will someone listen? I think brands often underestimate just how much you need to be investing in marketing, always. And that's not just a dollar figure, which can be very large, but something that we see throughout the program and how businesses move through that scaling process is that you can learn and practice the commercials of your business. You can upskill in that area, and once you are good at it, you stay good at it. You can increase your knowledge of your supply chain and all of the different things that go into that. And once you have that knowledge, there's always going to be new things that come up, and you're building that knowledge for yourself. But the I guess the slope of the mountain that you're kind of going up or going down is staying relatively same, and it will be a big learning curve at the beginning, and then you're there and you're like, cool, I know supply chains, I know my logistics, I can do that. Compliance and manufacturing processes as well, it's very similar. Once you know what you need to do in terms of compliance, you're like, okay, I know that. If there are new things that are coming in from a policy point of view, I'll stay up to date. But once it's almost like once it's done, it's done. But marketing is constant. And if you don't invest in that in a monetary way, or if you're not investing time into learning or executing the things that you need to do, particularly if you are doing it yourself, or investing time to upskill in areas that you know you lack in. And we see this a lot. It's kind of like you might have a founder come through who's very competent in across most of the things, and they'll just say, but I just can't do social media, I just can't do marketing, I can't get my head around paid ads, I can't get my head around the the retail media systems for retailers. And to that, I'm just always like, you have to. If you don't want to, you have to find someone that can. You'll eventually realize, and we see it happen, like you're a brand you've gotten into major retail. You might have 40 stores, you might have 200 stores, you might have 1,100 stores. And you very quickly realize, after all of your onboarding processes that have gone through, all of the box that you've checked off, one of the only things you're continuing to do is market your product from that point onwards. And if you're not up to date with what's happening, or you haven't taken the time to learn the systems or gain a confidence maybe in being in front of the camera, or a confidence in your creativity, it's the one thing you need to continue to succeed. It's a hard pill to swallow, I think, for a lot of solo founders in particular, or businesses with quite small teams, because it's frustrating. If marketing is not your thing, and you didn't get into this business to be in marketing, because maybe you're a chef, or maybe you're a dietitian, or maybe you're a doctor and you just really want to be solving these problems. It's a hard pill to swallow that marketing is the thing that you're now a marketing specialist, and you are going to be a marketing specialist for as long as you have this business. I honestly think there are lots of different things, but for me, it's the underestimation of marketing in general.
First, you're a marketing company. Second, you sell your product or your services or your wares or whatever you want to say. But the first thing that your business has to be is a marketing company. And you've just answered that as well, saying that is one of the critical things. And I think you're right. It is exactly what it has to be. How does Seedlab help bridge the gap between promising product and one Woolworths can confidently list? Or is it they're just on their own, and to get into Woolworths is still their own part? Or is there any link in that as well?
As Seedlab, as being fully kind of sponsored by Woolworths, it means we have access to a lot of understanding around their systems, their processes, their people, that on the outside, or if you have no knowledge of this going in, you just won't get access to. And it is a clear differentiator for us, and what we do there is that knowledge of Woolworths systems and processes. How we help bridge the gap. Sometimes it's even less about the promising product, and it's more around like the promising supplier, because you've got a supplier, I don't know, they're towards the end of Cultivate, they're really exciting, really teachable, they've got a really cool product range, but we've learnt in that time that they actually have a really large capacity to produce other products and other interesting things. And so I think one of our jobs is to help make sure that the supplier, the business, is aware of their capability and capacity, so that when they have a category meeting with Woolworths, perhaps in health, I'll use health as an example, they might present a range of products that they're selling at the moment and they want to get into Woolies, but they can say, oh, we also produce this, or we have the capacity to produce this. So what we're really interested in talking about is the opportunities you see in the category at the moment. We're seeing that there is this target customer is coming in, there's an opportunity here, and how do we have this conversation? So for us, a really good Woolworths and business relationship begins with a really good conversation. And so we can say to Woolworths, like, oh, we've got these businesses, they're producing this and this and this, and particularly the team that we work with at Woolworths, which is in supplier engagement and specialty as a focus. But we have tendrils across the whole group, often have a say of like, oh yeah, we're looking for that, or oh, there's an opportunity here, or oh, have they spoken to this person? And we can relay that information back. We can make sure that everyone's making those connections and helping foster the relationship with their category manager, with the merchandise manager, with Woolworths at Work. So it's an arm of Woolworths where you're supplying products to workplaces. These are all opportunities that we help our suppliers bridge from I don't know anyone to, oh, I actually know everyone within this team now.
So it's actually quite cool that you can sort of foster those relationships, because you're right, that is one of the hardest things. And I think as well, a lot of people come when they go to the supermarkets, they're actually afraid. Well, you're right, they don't know who to speak to, and they're afraid of the category managers. And again, these category managers, they're just normal people like you and I, and they're great to talk to, and they have a lot of information, and they are really willing to share it. And I think that is one thing that people really forget. Just ask them questions as well. I've always said that to people, just ask them questions. They will help. So from your point of view, is there something that Woolworths is really looking for that many new suppliers don't fully appreciate?
To your point, it's a capability and like ease of doing business. Like they're looking for people that are easy to work with. And as much as they are willing to share information and answer questions when you're in the room or Zoom room or whatever room you're in with them, one of the most important things is understanding, one of the most important things we've learned is understanding that a category manager has no time. There's not enough hours in a day for that job at all. I have endless amounts of empathy for category managers, and I think part of our job is to get that across to some of the smaller suppliers who live rightfully so in a world where things happen now and things have to happen quickly, and they are used to working in an agile way to get things done, and they're used to doing a lot of things themselves. And that can be really tricky to come up against when you're having a meeting with a major retail category buyer who doesn't have time and has a lot of restraints around what they can do. They have systems and processes that have to be met and gone through for different things. And if you can come in as a new supplier who's got a really interesting product to add value and innovation and ideally incremental growth to a category, and you are also coming in immediately speaking their language and speaking terms with them that they understand, and talking commercially as a first point, and not getting too hung up in all of your founder story and everything there, because you're aware that although you have half an hour in front of them, really you probably only have 5 minutes of their attention before they're going somewhere else. If you can understand that and lean into it, you are going to be so much more well off than someone that comes in quite hot-headed or comes in kind of airy-fairy, it's just so nice to meet you. It's like, that's great, but actually we're here to work. I don't have a lot of time. Let's get to it. No offense. But yeah, let's see what can happen.
It's one of those things that, you don't know what to go in with, right? Unless, you've been through something like this with yourselves, so you get a bit more insight to it. Or as you said, you've been a cat manager before. But if you don't know, you don't know. And you go in there and you are pleased to see them because you're like, oh my God, I've finally got some time with you. And then they're like, come on, hurry up. You've used your 5 minutes of my, capacity. As I said before, 3 seconds for someone to look at a product and have a look at it. And yes, they are time poor. I know a few category managers as well, and they are really time poor, unfortunately. Communication is what sort of comes out of all of that. Communicating with your cat manager, communicating with your team, making sure you've got that all covered and you're understanding it. Australia and New Zealand, because, you cover across both. We've got that, that love-hate relationship. We love each other. We hate each other, depending on the day, depending on who we're playing and what sport it is, I guess. You work with suppliers across both Australia and New Zealand. What differences do you see between the two markets, or is there nothing?
Played a Crowded House song for a group of suppliers recently, and everyone was fighting in the comments straight away, which is always fun. In terms of the markets, they are a bit different. Like they are, the size of the market is very different. So New Zealand is small. Australia is still small, but bigger. It's really interesting to see the different types of consumers in those spaces as well. And so what they're looking for in products can differ quite a lot, I think. And so one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of years working with Seedlab is that New Zealanders are just so innovative. And I think it comes from a really rich industrial culture of innovation and traditionally quite a large government support for innovation as well. New Zealand and my home state in Australia, Tasmania, big agritourism and agricultural centres. And so they both lend themselves to innovation, particularly in food and beverage. And I guess personal care as well, like bioactive ingredients in different ways. And because it's a small market, new and novel products I see can do really well in New Zealand, whether that's like a new kind of novel ingredient like mushroom-based functional foods and beverages, I think do so well over there. The consumer is poised, I guess, to take on that innovation. They're like, oh yeah, I will try that. That's really fun. I know someone who knows the founder's cousin. There's this connection, I think, between the community and products in the innovative space that is very different to the Australian market.
Interesting for you to say that we're so innovative and stuff like that, because we see it like from our point of view, and this is me talking with people making the products and stuff as well. Yes, we are innovative. I will not say that against that, because we brought up on that we have to innovate to get our products to market. But we look at it as well and say, oh, we're in these trends. You get the trend that starts in UK, Europe, or the US, and then it slowly comes down through Australia, then it comes to us. So you're saying you guys are hesitant. It's like, man, it's going to be tough to get our products in there. On that, getting products into Australia, New Zealand brands, typically, I feel, underestimate the scale of preparation needed to get into Australia. Do you feel it's the same way? Because, we are small. We got 5 million people, and you got 5 million people in virtually every state.
I think it goes both ways. And I've been thinking about this over the last little while, because I don't know whether it's just me having a special place in my heart for all the New Zealanders that I work with. I love them so much. But I think it's a sort of yes and no. When we've noticed that over the last couple of years in particular, that the New Zealand businesses that are coming to Seedlab and are getting in, and we're able to get to know them a bit better, they're coming to us saying, like, we know Australia is different. We know the market is different. But we want to understand what that means for our proposition. So there's not a naivety, I think, at all, that they might underestimate it based on what they know and what they learn. And then when they're actually doing it, they're like, whoa, okay, this is so much bigger than even my knowledge thought it would be. But I think the underestimation doesn't come from that naivety. I think that everyone knows that it's different, and it's being open to the businesses that win in Australia are the businesses that are open to doing things a bit differently, adjusting their proposition, and making sure that they are learning and staying up to date on the ways the Australian market works.
Got a few stores in New Zealand. Now I want to hit Australia because I want to be able to scale, volume-wise. I want to scale. Right, and you've got to make sure you've got that timing right to be able to go, hey, let's scale. And again, even if you do scale and get there and you get accepted into Australia, you've also got to have the dollars or the backing behind you, because there is, that scale can be quite an effective, quite impactful on you. It might improve your COGS. We talk about COGS a lot, but it then also might be like, whoa, I need a lot of money to be able to fund all of this, because I've got to buy all this product in to get these volumes through for this large number of stores. Speaking about this then is, what do you see as the biggest opportunity gaps for Trans-Tasman suppliers? And this is both ways, not just us, not just you. We're all in this one sandpit together. How do we make it work?
I think, again, it's to your point there, if you're particularly in New Zealand, I'll start with New Zealand. If New Zealand is really working for you, and you can see that your market fit is there, and you're thinking, oh, maybe Australia. It could be, instead of the question, oh, maybe Australia, could be maybe Singapore, maybe Thailand, maybe there are opportunities for me in regions that are also innovating in this way, that there's maybe it's a slightly more saturated market, but the thing that then differentiates you is New Zealand made, provenance. There's a kind of luxury that comes from New Zealand made products, Australian made products in export opportunities. And so we're seeing a little bit more of that come through, I think, in recent years as people are looking for new opportunities. And yeah, in terms of opportunity gaps, I think it is around provenance and regional differentiation and what that means in other markets. So if even between Australia and New Zealand, sometimes it's not just about New Zealand made, Australian made. It's like, but where exactly? Like, how does where you make this make you unique? Like, sometimes it comes down to like, is the water different? Is the water different there? And what does that mean for your product? Because even, and it got me thinking around the recent sale of the Bogues Brewery in northern Tasmania, and the huge outcry because it's been similar to the Australia-New Zealand divide. The Bogues Cascade divide in Tasmania is years long and will continue to be. But they want to move Bogues up to Queensland, and I understand from a business point of view why they'll do that. But part of the reason, as I'm a Cascade girl, I will say I'm a Cascade girl, but part of the reason of what makes Bogues great and what makes it interesting is that it's using Tassie water in the brewing system and different things like that. There's a lot of unique elements of that goes into the brand, and that's one of the reasons it sells very well in export and across. So if you lose bits of that, it can be a shame. But if you haven't maybe tapped into the regional parts of your brand before because you have been locked into one market, it's definitely something worth exploring. And I think in general, export, I'm not an expert. I'm not an export expert by any means. It's not somewhere where I spend a lot of my time at the moment, but it is something that I know many of our businesses in Seedlab have had great opportunities in, and they are always interesting to talk to about those opportunities. And yeah, it's different markets, it's different things. It's a conversation that I'll continue to have with people, I think.
Yeah, I do feel that, and again, that sort of relates back to that storytelling, because you're telling the true story of your product. And I know what you mean on that water thing, because I can say it on a couple of products where I have them in New Zealand, and then I have the same thing in Australia, and they're made in each country. And I'm like, mate, it just doesn't taste the same over there. Our water is better. It's probably the same for Tasmania. If they made that product in Tassie, it would be better. I guess maybe it's just the lusher, purer forests. I don't know. So let's talk about packaging. My favorite thing that I'm a super geek about. From a packaging perspective, what do new suppliers often get wrong?
What a question. I'll whip through something like a hot list of stuff. And I will say, like, this is just my opinion, but I have it on good authority that a lot of other people agree. A brand that no one knows yet is just the biggest thing on the pack. Claims everywhere. Claims on claims, and non-compliant labels in general. Just like sometimes if you've got all these things to say, none of it is landing. So pick one and go with it. And if it just happens to be a gluten-free product, great. Is it really that important to call it out? Probably not. The materials you've chosen for your packaging are like best of the best, because you went out and found a gap that no one was making this kind of pack. No one's doing it this way. And we see it come through, and I'm just like, well, maybe there's a reason no one's doing it. Have you thought about this? So that's something we see a lot, and it's just, it makes me cry, because they'll be like, I've ordered so many. I'm like, oh dear. And I think just as an all-in-one, going all in on packaging before testing any of the market fit. It's probably the number one thing that we see. We don't see it too often, but when it does come through, I just feel so sad a lot of the time. So that's probably my hot list.
I agree with all of those. It happens all the time. The other one that I want to always mention, and I like to mention this a lot, is making sure that when you are looking at scaling, that your product, your packaging can be used by the person packing it. That can be a real pain as well. So you have to make sure that works, because that can be it as well. So I've seen that happen too. And that premium one, I've had a client where their packaging, their total packaging, so this was in it, out of all of this stuff, cost more than the actual goods going in the product.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it's very important. Again, packaging is important to the overall retail readiness picture. It's core, really, but it's just one part of the puzzle. Do you agree with that?
I think so. Like, you could take a few different routes, but I would say if we one part of the puzzle, but maybe it's the corner pieces. So like if we're running with it, so like it's often the number one lever a business has to reduce their cost of goods. So it's always a conversation we're going to have with a supplier coming through, because everything can be fine. But then, like you said, the packaging can cost so much. And it's like, well, why is it costing this much? This is an easy fix that you can do very soon. And so then it's kind of like very much a corner there in terms of COGS. In terms of its importance in like labeling and compliance, like it has to be compliant. It's a non-negotiable. And it's something that does cost a little bit of money to get right. It takes time to get right. And if you get it wrong, it's going to cost so much more. You're going to be dealing with recalls, withdrawals. There are all these different things that could happen if even just a label is wrong. So it's important. It could ruin your business if it's not right. It's also important when it comes to the actual maybe food or drink or even care technology side of it in terms of shelf life. So it's a conversation we'll have with a supplier to maybe they might be using some sort of packaging, but we're like, have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? Like this could increase shelf life. So that's in a product-based importance, I guess. But it can also be make or break in particular categories. So like if you're a freezer product, your packaging has to work in a freezer, and the idiosyncrasies that come with merchandising that space and peering through a double door, like, oh, what thing do I want? Oh, it's all fallen down the back. There's all these things that happen in that particular space that no one really thinks about if you're just looking in isolation. And similarly, like you might have a clear point of difference in your product with a slimmer jar or a slimmer pack size at a premium price point, for example. And that means that your product has the opportunity to make a cap manager a whole lot more GP on the space allocated to that slimmer jar than a big value sized offering. And so even thinking about that as a level of packaging, I think is so important. And so that's what I mean. Corner pieces, it infiltrates every part of your business and proposition if you can get it right. And if you get it wrong, it's so awful.
It's critical to get it right. You've got to speak to the right people. Make sure it fits on the shelf too. I've seen people do products that don't fit you. They've tried to make it skinny, as you said, tall, but then it doesn't actually fit on the shelves. That is sort of the retailer they're going into. And the other side is, you talked earlier about the claims. They have to be defendable. Every claim you have has to be defendable. And I think that's another thing that people have to get right. Because especially with social media these days, if you get that wrong, you are in trouble because you will be hammered off the shelves, basically. And yeah, getting it right so that your category manager can make more money is definitely the way to do it. What is the best way for a prospective supplier to start the conversation with Seedlab?
The best way to start the conversation with Seedlab is apply for bootcamp via our website, which is www.seedlabaustralia.com.au/apply.
What's one thing every founder should hear before they try to get into Woolworths?
What problem are you solving, and why are you the business to solve it?
Great way to close. Thanks, Kenna. I've really appreciated it. Thank you for your time and congratulations on the new role.
Thanks, Stefan. It's been great.